Okay, so let's move on to the next scenario. What else should be the case?
Um, you're definitely on when we're talking about the account health dashboard, it's not just a matter of checking it daily, but you want to be prepared to take action, on things like your order defect rate or your late shipment rate or your response time. You want to monitor those things and take action. And one mistake I see a lot of people make is they assume that deleting the ASIN is taking action, and that's not necessarily the case. Every once in a while, the solution to the problem is to delete the ASIN, but a lot of the time, if somebody comes to me and they say, "Hey, I want your help getting these things cleaned up," if they've already gone in and deleted the ASIN, it becomes really almost impossible to get it removed from the dashboard. And there usually something else that needs to happen in order to clean that up. And a lot of the time, fixing the problem means that you've got to be able to go into your inventory and edit the listing, and you can't edit the listing if you've already deleted it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, this is also not for compliance matters, but I see this all the time because we have a SaaS platform, and we connect to the Seller Central account and fetch the data. And guess what happens? We connect to the items and we connect to all the wherever the data is, and then when we fetch the data and then we combine everything. As you know, Amazon reports by ASIN. Most
Right.
of the times, all the reports are by ASIN, and sellers don't really deal with ASINs. They deal with SKUs usually, or some sellers don't even have SKUs, but they definitely don't use ASIN as an identifier. So, but suddenly the reports are all by ASIN. So what we do is we convert the ASINs to SKUs and we report by SKUs.
So
So
your
that way,
reports will show the FN SKU automatically?
well, we work with the ASINs naturally because that's what's in the report, but our reporting is by SKU because sellers like the SKUs more. Now, what happens there is we are getting the SKUs from their items list, and we are getting the reports from whatever the report is about, whether it's orders or performance. And suddenly when we do the translation of, okay, where is the SKU, because we're not going from SKU to ASIN, we're going from the report ASIN back to the SKU in the item data, and suddenly we find in the reports 25 ASINs being reported with some kind of performance. And then we come look at the SKUs and there are only 8 listings. Why? Because those 17 listings were deleted. But the performance does not go away, right? So when you download the report, in the report, you have everything for every single ASIN, but you've deleted those ASINs. So now what? So that's why it's a challenge. I mean, your point about don't delete something unless you have to.
The one caveat I would say is that it can be a best practice to go into your inventory and delete all of the listings that you are no longer going to sell. If you go in and sort by the products in your inventory and you see a whole bunch of things, and this applies most often to people who are not private label, but you see a whole bunch of products that you're no longer selling, you're not sourcing, you're not going to sell them again, those it can make sense to delete as long as you don't have performance and notifications associated with them. A lot of the time people don't like to delete them because they're concerned that they're going to get a return and then it's going to get stranded. I'd say don't worry about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my usual rule of thumb is this. In technology, you never want to hard delete anything if there is historical data.
The problem with that on Amazon is it can come back and bite you.
Yeah, so that's my guiding principle, so to speak. If there is historical data, don't delete anything. unfortunately, Amazon does not offer hiding something or archiving it. I wish that they would make that available at some point, so that way people can just archive. Because really, at the end of the day, you just care about visually. When you go to manage inventory, you don't want 200 listings there if only 8 of them are doing business.
Yeah, it's not a very eye-pleasing file cabinet.
No, but it's a fact of life. So I tell people, try not to delete anything, and if you have to, then make sure that you know what at least make a copy of it so that you know what was what.
Do you have an FBA returns report that you manage for your clients?
I don't do the FBA returns report.
Okay. Sometimes for a long time, I used to encourage people to download their FBA returns report because there's a lot of valuable information in there. And it's one of the ways you can be super proactive with your account, because you can go in and see all the items that have complaints. And a lot of the time you can see what the complaint is, and you can get out in front of Amazon sending you a notification or a warning when you see these problems showing up, and then you take action to resolve it before it turns into a complaint.
So this is not something I do with my clients, but I have some experience share on this, and it's a very interesting one. This is like 5 years ago. I had a client, and they sold skincare items, and specifically, this was a lady from Australia, and she actually was selling on the U.S. marketplace. So they had merchandise in a 3PL, and they would just replenish the FBA inventory. So what they sold was a product for ladies, and you would put on like wrinkly areas, like usually your neck and your chest, and you would simply leave it there overnight, and you would wake up with no wrinkles. So
seems too good to be true.
So I mean, it worked very nicely. So, and it came in a box, and then you would take it out, and then you would simply stick it. So they came to me because they were struggling. So one of the first things I did was I looked at their performance, and I found that they had a high return rate.
Mm.
And
that's
their
often a good warning to see.
Yeah, they had also their product rating was not good. So I did exactly that. I downloaded the FBA returns report, and there is a reason there. So in that report, they give you a reason, and these are canned answers. So you can easily, you don't have to read every single one. You can simply categorize and then sort by, and then I did a
exactly
analysis of how many of these do I have, and then I got a list of, and this is not like you have hundreds of them, you have like a handful, maybe 5-6 different ones, and then I looked at how many of these do I have as a complaint, and right there immediately one thing jumped out. And you know what they were doing? So this particular thing would come out of a box, and then it had a transparent film over the material. So this was like a bandage kind of thing, a nice kind of paper backing. So you would simply take it out of the box and then stick it. But they had a transparent film. So a lot of people were complaining it doesn't stick, it falls off, and blah, blah, because they were not removing the transparent film because they were noticing it.
It's almost like you got to have a sticker on the transparent film that says it needs to be removed.
It was they were taking it out of the box and then putting it on their chest. Of course, it wouldn't stick, and then they were going to bed or whatever, and then the following day, no change.